when there's two sides to every coin. Then there's a conversation you can join. But I'm an old dog and there's new tricks. And some of my opinions you just can't fix. 'Cause I'm an old man yelling at the sky. I'ma shake my fists at the clouds and cry. Get off my lawn, you snowflake, before I have a meltdown, breakdown, shakedown. 'Cause this is my hometown, so back down, sports clown. It's all just a game, and it's the last down, let down, cowtown. I said it's all just a game. I give the touchdown, the rundown, the lowdown, 'cause it's over the game. Gonna crack down and shut down the sundown. I said it's all just a game.
Hi, kids. How the heck are you? Welcome to the Monday edition of Just a Game. I would be me, you would be you. Jack is here, so we are in good hands. I'm excited about that. And Jack, actually, we're putting Jack to work today because as we go to air, now this won't make any sense on the podcast, but if you're watching the live stream, if you're a handful of people watching the live streaming right now, the final game of the Young Stars tournament in Penticton involving Calgary and Winnipeg is going on right now. So in the event of some sort of update or something, Jack will jump in immediately and update us on the going-ons. Because, my God, we better have them. If I sound, see, I'm a corporate refugee, but in a previous life, I had a boss that every time you say, "Hey, how are you?" "Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so busy. I'm always so busy, so busy." He's never going to die because he doesn't have time to die. He's so busy. And it just drives me nuts. And people that know me know that I hate when "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm so busy." So I'll never say that. And I'm not. But what I am today, and I said, Jack said, "How are you?" Actually, no, RJ was here. "RJ, how are you?" I said, "RJ, I'm going to sit here in quiet and eat my soup. That's what I am going to do. I am grumpy. I have no reason to be grumpy, but I am grumpy. I am, and some are going to say, "Well, how would you know?" Well, I know. Today I'm grumpier than usual. But I won't take it out on you, and I won't take it out on Jack. However, I did lecture Jack. I did, because I am grumpy. There will be no more asking me to make predictions. That's it. It's over. Done. Rob, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? Oh, boy, I like Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. They're due. Now they're 0-2, and Burrow might be hurt. And then the piece de resistance, as I butcher another language, was Friday, because, of course, now I like Jack. I want Jack involved, so Jack's monitoring the comments, and he's going to ask you questions and queries. And somebody said, "Well, Rob, what's your prediction about Mike Babcock? Will he see the beginning?" Yes, of course, Mike Babcock will see the beginning of the year. Well, that's not going to happen either. So I lectured Jack, no more allowing me to do predictions. I hate them. I've always hated predictions. I'm much better at dealing with what's happened than what might happen. So with that said, Boomer's going to join us today. You might know him as Dean Mulberg, or you might know him as Boomer. 1/3 of the Barn Burner, the wildly successful, might be second only to Spit and Chicklets, quite honestly, when it comes to platforms. We were talking about platforms on Friday. So Boom's going to join us here in a little bit. A lot to digest, a lot to talk about. As we are, this is kind of a crazy day for us, because not only is the Young Stars tournament, oh boy, we got to get to the bottom of that, find out who's winning. Ooh, oh my God. I don't know if you guys know this, but there was some concern about the lack of structure in the Flames game on Saturday. So we'll get to that. You know, this, what is it, scrimmage with jerseys? Yeah, there was a lack of structure. Anywho, also going on right now is, and this is cool, this is, really important, but the PWPA, did I get it right? I always butchered. Professional Women's Players Association draft is going on right now. PWHL, sorry, the PWHL. The PA would be the PA. The PWA, it's on as we speak. And it is all over everybody's platform. TSN's covering, Sportsnet's covering, CBC's covering, Hockey Canada's covering it, the NHL Network's covering. Everybody's at it. It's a first-class event. Our dear friend Cassie Campbell-Pascal's there. I just want to pump the brakes a little bit here. I know this is supposed to be a big, monumentous day for women's hockey with this draft. But you do not become a legitimate league. You do not have any street cred until somebody grades this draft. Somebody needs to get in there and provide letter grades for all 6 teams. Then you are a league. Only then, if somebody who never saw these players play before and they have yet to play for these teams can provide an A through F ranking, then you are a legitimate league. You brought the mic. You had something to add? No? Okay. I nearly made the mistake of sending that as a tweet to someone significant in the Nation Network ecosystem. And then I thought better of it. So I instead of sending a tweet, I just said it on here, tongue firmly planted in cheek. My God, how could you possibly have a draft and not assign letter grades to the drafting? Anyway, I'm sure that'll happen as soon as it's over and away we go. But congratulations to the women for getting this far. Very excited about the fact that our friend Carla McLeod is the head coach of Ottawa, and hope to get her on in the near future to talk about that. A couple other things before we get to the news of the day. How about them Jays? How about them Jays? So when last we spoke, they were swept by the Texas Rangers, and their playoff chances had faltered down below 50%. Since then, and not always in the way that you would suspect, they have. They beat the Red Sox. Not convincingly, but they beat the Red Sox. They swept the Red Sox. And guess what? They're back in a playoff spot. So here's hoping the Jays have finally turned it around. The team can pitch. Of that, there's little doubt. They have great pitching right now. Where they struggle is in their situational hitting and, quite honestly, in big games. Let's be realistic here. Oh, they swept Kansas City, and then they got swept by Texas, and then they swept the Bo Sox. Well, the only consistency in that is that both Kansas City and the Bo Sox are below 500. So they got to prove it by beating some teams. But they are back in a playoff spot. They are in New York to take on the Yankees tomorrow to open up a series there. We are quiet about this, and I don't know how quiet we should be, but Tommy Wheeldon Jr., manager of the month in the CPL for August, and the Cavalry are beginning to open a really wide lead at the top of the table. They're now 6 points up, 46 points to lead the CPL, beat Vancouver at home on Saturday afternoon by a 2-1 score. The season beginning to wind down, but the local fellas seem to be playing really, really well. Really, really well. So I do want to make mention of that. But you haven't mentioned the CFL. I have not. The Stampeders were off this weekend. Some interesting and entertaining games. Hamilton beat Winnipeg and then put out one. I of all the things I send Jack to put up on the screen, this one I forgot. But the Tiger Cats put up a wicked burn on the Blue Bombers. They used the picture of the cell phone and puts, I think, something to the effect of expected or spam. Anyway, that was great. So the CFL had I think, a very entertaining weekend. I encourage you, if you have not checked out Danny Austin's Live from the 55, make sure you do. So with all of that said, let's deal with the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Boomer is going to join us here in a little while. We'll get his thoughts on it. I know they've already talked it on Barn Burner, but Mike Babcock no longer the head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. What's interesting, this news coming down yesterday, is that the complete lack of accountability from top to bottom in this. Let's start off with there is absolutely nothing wrong with treating people with respect, dignity, and professionalism. If you feel that to get your point across, if you feel that the only way you can move a conversation forward is to intimidate or bully someone, then you are in the wrong job. And for too many years, we have allowed that as, some form of demonstrative behaviors, for the lack of a better term, to get us success, then we'll live with it. We don't live in that world anymore. And there's a yin and a yang to this, and I'll get to the yin and the yang in a second. But let's deal with the accountability. All right, let's start with Mike Babcock. He resigned. You know why he resigned? Because he didn't want to be a distraction. You know what don't want to be a distraction is? Code for, I don't really want the media asking me about this all the time. Never said I was wrong. Never said I apologize for overstepping. Never said I feel bad for making somebody feel uncomfortable. Just said I don't want to be a distraction. I don't want to be a distraction. If I stay, I'll be a distraction. If I stay, the media are going to ask me about this, and the media will make it difficult for the team to play, and the media. Again, he will never coach again. I think everybody has said that. I think that's a safe bet. I know there's a lot of going back to Friday. Darren Dreger put out a tweet, and he got some backlash on. I didn't think it was fair. He was just saying, "Look, this is serious. Like serious to the point where he may lose his job. I'm not reporting he's going to lose his job, but it's serious." And I think Friedman said the same thing. They all the insiders said the same thing. Like, this is really serious. Now, remember, the NHL last Tuesday said nothing to see here. Done. It's over. Both the Columbus Blue Jackets and Boone Jenner both put out, there's nothing here. There's nothing to see here. It's a whole bunch of nothing. Marty Walsh, Ron Hainsey visited the team on Thursday. This is not my reporting. This is Elliot Friedman's reporting. This is Chris Johnson's reporting. This is Frank Seravalli's reporting. The reporting on that meeting is very tense. The reporting on that meeting was, it was not equal in that dressing room. The vets didn't have a problem with it. The young guys did. But there was no middle ground. The key player in this, folks, is Ron Hainsey. The key player in this, folks, is Ron Hainsey. Ron Hainsey was in Carolina. My understanding is Ron Hainsey, again, not my reporting. This is reporting, I believe, from Elliot Friedman. Ron Hainsey was the one that stood up to Bill Peters, that said you can't be physical with players on the bench. You can't abuse players on the bench. Ron Hainsey was in Toronto when Babcock was there. Ron Hainsey is now with Marty Walsh. What we are beginning to learn is that something happened involving a younger player away from the facilities of the Blue Jackets, Aaron Portzline from the Athletic Report. And if you aren't following Aaron Portzline, shame on you. And if you aren't following the Athletic, I know we have to pay for our coverage. Shame on us. But Aaron Portzline has been brilliant through this whole thing. And if you should read his column from yesterday. Just some fine sports writing. And again, it goes back to a conversation with Adam Seaborn a couple of weeks ago when we talked about who's going to keep people accountable. Well, Aaron Portzline is. This got swept under the rug. NHL, ownership, management, president, coach, under the rug. And if it wasn't for the NHLPA, it wouldn't have seen the light of day. If it wasn't for players, it wouldn't have seen the light of day. If it wasn't for Biz Nasty, it wouldn't have seen the light of day. Owners came out today. They had a statement. "Oh, we're disappointed. My gosh, how did this happen? Our ownership group is deeply frustrated and disappointed by the events of this past week. We have been in contact with John Davidson and Jarmo Kekalainen, yet they keep their jobs." And I say this being one of the biggest John Davidson fans out there. I've met him, not friends, nothing like that. I've interviewed him. I think the world of John Davidson. But you cannot come out today and say, "Oops, on us, our bad," and walk away unscathed. Jarmo Kekalainen should not have his job. Sorry, Should not have his job. Everybody knew what Mike Babcock was. You cannot shoot a cow for being a pig. Mike Babcock is who he is. If you go back, and I wish I could reference the exact moment it was, but it was in his press conference, his introductory press conference. TSN played this last night. There was Mike Babcock talking about how the last 3.5 years was the search for the right communication with players. Failed. I like John Davidson. Think he's a good guy. Don't know Jarmo Kekalainen from a hole in the ground. I've interviewed him a couple times, but I don't know him. Yet they walk away unscathed here. Jarmo Kekalainen today say, I apologize to the players. Very cool. One of the really interesting pieces of the Aaron Portzline column yesterday, and if you think about it, it is really accurate. How messed up. There you go. Make sure you check it out. How messed up is this whole situation if the players, and particularly the younger players, felt like they had to go outside the organization? They had to go to Biz Nasty. That they did not have confidence in the general manager. They did not have confidence in the president. They did not have confidence in anybody in the organization. That they chose to deal with this by going outside the organization. Poof. Zero credibility. How does Jarmo Kekalainen have any credibility? Poof. It's gone. Oh, let's talk about the National Hockey League. Everybody's favorite whipping boy. Do I miss being on Rogers? Not one iota. Corporate refugee. I love it. Do I miss being at CSEC? Not one iota. Corporate refugee. I love it. The one thing both of those places afforded me was the opportunity to talk to Gary Bettman. And I suppose we could ask here, but because we're rights holders and because of the team, I got access to Gary Bettman. And Gary and I have a great relationship, and Gary will answer any question I've answered. And I remind him of things that we have talked about, women's hockey, for instance, concussions, 8 pillars. You remember the NHL in its 2017 8 pillars? Here's the 8 pillars of hockey. This is how we're going to grow the game. This is how we're going to be responsible. The 8 pillars of hockey. Where did they go? Don't know. Kyle Beach. Oh, we learned so many lessons from Kyle Beach. Did we? Oh, we can't have practice jerseys. They're a distraction. It's hard on our players. Really? And then you allow Mike Babcock to come waltzing back in. Last week, you say, nothing to see here, folks. By the way, same people that are apparently investigating the players involved in Team Canada World Juniors in 2018. Where's the credibility? Where's the accountability? Okay. I cannot add anything new to this conversation. By now, if you are and actually, I shouldn't say I can't. I want to hold off till Boomer gets here. I'm sure there's something. I want to take a different tact. 2 things before Boomer joins us. I remember the first Coach's Corner. I remember the first time that Don Cherry was featured in an intermission in Hockey Night in Canada. I wasn't very old, and I can't say as I remember the topics, but I remember it. It was monumental. The fact that you had this figure from the sport on a broadcast talking about the sport in a way that had never been talked about before and holding those people in the game to accountability. Now, it was a flawed product from the beginning. Just ask Swedish hockey players. Don is who Don is. Unapologetic, and to this day, you want to start a really good controversy or you want to get a bunch of people fired up, ask them whether or not Don should still be on the air. I get that part. I understand that part. But Don Cherry, for the better part of 3 decades, was a voice in the NHL wilderness. He was a voice that did good. I would suggest that unintentionally did bad, but did good. Drew attention to our soldiers, drew attention to our younger players, certainly challenged our belief systems, all of those sort of things. And I believe 4 years ago found himself on the outside looking in, which really in hockey began this woke debate and, are we allowed to have fun anymore? Those sort of things. I'm here to tell you, I'm doubling down on what I said on Friday. Biz Nasty is the new Don Cherry. Not from the standpoint of his opinions and what he says, but the role that he now has to play. Good on Jeff Merrick, Elliot Friedman, all of the podcasts the last 24 hours that have broken this one, Julian McKenzie and CJ, for mentioning that TNT, who employ Biz Nasty as a hockey analyst, have stood by him. They know exactly what they're doing because they do it in the NBA. They know they're not carrying water for the league. Biz Nasty now becomes this generation's Don Cherry from the standpoint that he is that voice outside the system. And I apologize. Did you put up the? Yeah. Okay. So my apologies. I wanted to, draw attention to the fact that there's some bad language in there, but we're a players podcast. You F with the players, your day will come. You F with the players, your day will come. I'll make mention in there, friend of the program, Mike Commodore. Mike was one of the first to publicly criticize the tactics of Mike Babcock. He did it in a way that was over the top. He did it in a way that drew attention to it. But I also don't know if he did himself any favors sometimes, because I think I don't think people listened to Mike. I think they thought it was funny. I think they thought Mike was funny, but I'm not sure that they actually heeded the lessons and they heeded the warnings in there. But Biz Nasty now becomes this generation's Don Cherry. He has the opportunity. He has the public. Again, Jack, I go back to you. Who's got the biggest platform in all of hockey?
Spit and Chicklets.
And who's the face of Spit and Chicklets?
Biz Nasty.
So there you go. Simple as that. You don't have to be a hockey fan to know who he is. He becomes this generation's Don Cherry. And I hope he uses that power for good. We'll see. And again, something else I'll bring up with Boomer. Sometimes I go off on little tangents, and sometimes I try to outsmart myself, and sometimes I know what I want to say in my head, and I try to say it out loud, and sometimes I can't. Friday, I tried to make a point about this being a societal moment. Like, there's a lot, the people I have talked to, there's a lot of people that aren't as critical about Mike Babcock as I might be or others might be. I think there's a lot of people in the game that are not. You know what Mike Babcock is. I made this point not to try and equate Mike Babcock to Scotty Bowman, and not to try and equate Mike Babcock to Daryl Sutter or any of these guys. I'm just saying there's hard-ass coaches, and there's coaches that do different things to get players' attention, and I don't think you can do those things anymore. And I'm happy with that. Marty Walsh said that in his statement. Marty, it's interesting too, that Marty Walsh said that the Columbus Blue Jackets fired Babcock, but the Jackets say he resigned. And again, it's in the weeds, anyway. My point in all of this is I've talked to some people today, and some legitimate concerns have been raised. Not that we need to protect Mike Babcock. We also have to be very careful. And I tried to say this on Friday, and I will try to say it again today. When people take liberties with other people's dignity and respect, and the balance of power gets out of whack, rules are put in place. That's why we have HR departments. That's why we have OH&S. That's why. I suspect that there are going to be things that are going to be put into place to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. Should have been proactive, but here we are, we're being reactive. When we are reactive, we tend to go too far to the other side. There are legitimate concerns about young athletes, coaches, so youth sport coaches, hockey, basketball, soccer, who are now saying, geez, do I want to do this? There's a rubber band effect. There's a copycat thing. I don't know what you want to call it, a yin and a yang. I think we have to be really careful. This is overstepping boundaries, but this is not about, nobody has ever said that critical feedback cannot be provided. Nobody has ever said corrective feedback cannot be provided. Nobody's ever said teaching can't be, nobody's ever said you can't be held accountable. But there are a lot of people who think and have jumped to the conclusion that that's exactly what is going on here. And I think there are some in sports who are concerned that this is going to scare people away. I think there's some in sports who think this is going to empower others to take and run with my child. And I have no problem talking about this. Our next guest will back me up on this. My old radio days, it was not uncommon around this time of year. Every time hockey evaluations were held, we would get emails, we would get letters, we would get phone calls, we would get messages. You got to call me right away. I've got to tell you what X association is up to. They're discriminating against my son. He should have made this team. Oh, how are they discriminating him? Well, he went to this store and they sharpened his skates, and his skates weren't really sharpened, and as a result, he didn't make that team, and now he's on the B team. How is that discrimination? Well, but they discriminate again. And you think I'm lying about that? That is a legitimate letter that I received at 960 from a guy who was going to sue Hockey Calgary because his son didn't make a double-A team. It was A's, double A's, and all that before. This is 15 years ago. And his argument was his skates weren't properly sharpened. His defense of his son is he's a black belt in karate. Parents can get goofy at this time of year. Sorry, they can. And then they look for excuses. And then. And we better be careful that we equate Mike Babcock, Bill Peters, and the NHL situation in one regard. But this does not now give us license to say we cannot be critical. We cannot provide. You can provide critical feedback. You can provide bad news. What you can't do is be a bully about it. What you can't do is use it to hold somebody over their head. So this doesn't mean you can go into work tomorrow going, well, Mike Babcock looked at so if my boss does something I don't like, he has to go too. That's not how this works. And if you think I'm bullshit, Ty, close your ears. If you think I'm bullshitting about this, I'm not. I am not. This is the yin and the yang. This is the yin and the yang. So don't, because Mike Babcock got gonged today or, whatever, and something bad happens to your kid or your neighbor's kid or whatever. Like, honest to God, we've lost our way when it comes to our kids in so many cases. The complaints that minor soccer hears, that hockey hears, that swimming hears, that just the things that parents concoct. And every time something like this happens, they go, well, this is a Mike Babcock situation. No. Your son not making the double-A team and playing on the single-A team is not a Mike Babcock situation. They are different. All right. Hopefully I got that across. Let's do this. Very excited that our next guest can join us. Of course, he's brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard. SkiCellarSnowboard.com, 76 years in Calgary. 2 locations open right now. McLeod Trail by Chinook Center, Bow Ridge Road Northwest. Okay, that's 2. There's 4 when the snow flies. 2 open right now. Check them out for all of your skiing and snowboard needs. Again, SkiCellarSnowboard.com. Very pleased that Chef Bloomer can join us today. We will get into the topic of the day and then leave you with a very special souffle recipe that we're really excited about too. So I'm ecstatic. Are you still making chili, or are you moved on to another dish now?
Do you have time? Because the souffle does take 20 to 25 minutes. We'll have to put it in the oven now.
Okay.
And it'll be ready by the end of the show.
Well, maybe we should just drop the Babcock stuff and go right to the souffle.
Because, it takes time, right? We can't, you don't make it ahead. We have to make it right now for you to have the best.
Can I just say that I was pre-warned about this, but I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think what you're saying is, so now we're taking sports talk radio and we're moving it into this environment. So we all got to look like the Dan Patrick Show. Let's hang jerseys and let's do all of that. Mm-hmm. And what you've said is, screw that. I can now do this show in any environment. You can cook this week. What's stopping you from changing your oil next week while doing the show?
Like,
right?
You know, I'll do a show, I suppose, but I got stuff going on. I mean, you guys are going to have to come with me. I got a lot to do. So if you wanted, hey, we'll do the show, but we'll see where it goes.
You know what you are? You are to Sports Talk Radio. Yeah. No, to Sports Talk Radio. You are what cell phones are to communication. As soon as we got cell phones and we could walk around, the world changed. You are that same for Sports Talk Radio. Why do we need to be in a studio? Why do I need to have my hands tied while I need to cook? There's no reason.
So long we were the rotary dial of Sports Talk Radio. Right. Finally, we've gone wireless.
You are now wireless. You are indeed wireless. You were a
parent. It was one of those days. It was like, yes, I got a lot of stuff to do. So again, I got bailed out. Somebody in the group handled the Costco run today for cookies and buns and stuff. So I didn't have to do that. I said, listen, I got to be on Just a Game. I can't.
What does the apron say?
So, this here, Rob. This is my from 2002. It's the Alzheimer's Society Chili Cook-Off, the 7th annual, back from O2 in Brandon, of which I was the champion. So
I see.
I can't find my hat. I think it also came with the big hat, but it's a long
so if you would like to sponsor this segment and have Boomer wear your apron, get a hold of Jared now.
Or if you would like to provide me with some new cabinets or appliances or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, this really feels like I'm about to talk to Walk with Yan about Mike Babcock.
You know, it's such a great reference because so few will know what that is, but the people that know, I watched it every day. Yeah, we watched it every day. Now, a question: could you play it now? Like, because there's a bit of a racism angle to it, right? Like, you've got the Asian guy with the t-shirts, like walking, like Can you still do that? Can we have fun without it offending people, or would we have to change it now?
What a completely by accident, brilliant reference to what I was just talking about. I'd like to think so. I would like to think so. Anybody that bought his books or went to his signings know that the dude was legit. Yeah. He was legit, right? So I'd like to think so. Yeah.
And see, the best part of that, the show was called Walk with Yan, but Walk was spelled W-O-K because he was doing Asian dishes.
He was doing Asian dishes. Walk. Right.
Brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I am stunned that you have not. Like, this will spin off into another show, right? Like, you are adding another show off of this.
Well, there's a chance. I was talking with Jack. I said the only other thing I was going to do, and I didn't have time this morning, was have the aerial camera shooting down on my cutting board to show what I was doing. He's like, yeah, you should have had that. So we'll get there. I guess it was, we'll get there. But yeah, probably, you know what, the older I get, the less I need to talk about sports and stuff like what we're going to talk about today, and just, hey, you want to make a stir fry? What do you want to do today?
Yeah. So would you be upset then if I did the Bob Ross and started doing my show while I was painting, did the landscapes in the background?
Yeah, that's what you need. Just get a long Ethernet cable for the internet and have it out to your shed or whatever.
That's right.
Or with you on when you're hunting for ducks or whatever it is you hunt, and do it from there.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it for sure.
Yeah. I want to go back to and you are a father of hockey players and ringette players, and you've been in the system and everything like that. One of the things that was brought to my attention today about the Mike Babcock thing is, every time these things happen, it does fuel a certain tiny, small, but loud segment of the population that goes, hey, wait a minute, my kid too. Is there a yin and a yang to, bringing attention to these stories that, and we'll get to Babcock, he shouldn't be there, but then you begin to have these chats about what happened and why it happened and things like that. You've gone through the system. I am being told there are people now who just, I'm not even going to bother coaching. I'm not going to bother volunteering because it's not worth it, because it's just too much of this. I'm worried about what's going to happen next.
It's parents are hard. That's why we've seen referees in all sports. People just don't want to do it, especially young kids that get into refereeing. They quit because they don't want to. There's no money in it. You're not going to.
Yep.
Chances are you're not going to be a pro referee, and they just get out of it. It's, with as far as the Babcock thing, and because there's the yin and like you say, there's two sides for sure.
Yeah.
There's well, that's great. So now if we don't like something, rather than work with it and learn how to deal, we can just complain loud enough, because people were saying the same thing about the Flames coach here, that if we as a group just complain loud enough, we'll get things changed and we'll get our way, and people are too soft and all of that. It's like, yeah, I guess I can see your argument. But and then there's the other side. Well, I don't want to have to work for a bully or an asshole. I shouldn't have to put up with that. I'm a professional. I'm an adult. I shouldn't have to deal with that. Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't want to, and nor should you have to. So there's both sides. And this is a funny one, man, because the other ones have really kind of felt clear cut, right? With Bill Peters, the more that you learn, it's like, okay, well, that's racism. That's way over the line. Yeah, that's got to be done. With this one here, I don't think, and maybe we will never know, but I feel like we don't really have the details to make a real decision yet. Is it a witch hunt? You could, sure, okay. Is it absolutely deserve it? What was he thinking going through people's phones? Was he doing that? We don't. Sure, I don't know. We don't know. At least I think we don't know really what happened. And there's enough people who will tell you that Mike Babcock is a jerk and an a-hole and all of that. So, well, okay, does he deserve to be fired or have to quit? Well, probably not. Well, who hired the a-hole? Because they probably knew all this stuff coming in. Are they keeping their jobs? Are the players soft? I don't know. It's kind of one of those stories that we would talk about all the time, and then you'd finish. It's like, God, I don't even know. It's like, let's just talk about the sport. Is there a game tonight we can talk about? That sort of thing. There seems to be, there has to be, we have to be close to it. And I heard you talk about it before, I'm all for second chances. And I think people deserve second chances and all of that. But this happened so quickly. It was, there was way too much in it. When is the circle of life becoming shorter? When do you just move on to somebody who's new, who's younger, who's nicer, who's maybe doesn't have the track record, but it's not worth the potential baggage and all of that in the court of public opinion for our employees / players, whatever it is. Let's just put us all in the best spot to succeed, and maybe we won't be as successful if we'd have brought in that person, but we know what would have come with that person as well. So I don't know. We've all worked for a boss that was shitty and treated people unfairly or not nice, and well, they get results. Okay. But at the expense of what? The happiness of your employees? Are they quitting and going somewhere else? Are they as productive as they would be if they didn't have to work for somebody who wasn't a tyrant or whatever? I don't know. It's kind of like where we sit right now. You get to a certain point where you're just kind of tired of certain things and you feel like you deserve better.
Absolutely.
And if the players felt that way, then they're probably right.
Well, I say it all the time. I'm a corporate refugee. I've been in corporations and I've been in big companies and I don't like it because it's too sterile. It's too, God love them. Rogers does an amazing job for its, for its shareholders, but it's not a fun place to be at a lot of times. And that's okay. That's the other part of this conversation we can get into. This does not mean that you don't get feedback. This does not mean that you don't get hard cheese. I think what this means is we have to take the abuse out of the system. And I think that's really what we're doing here, is that we're saying people who need to provide feedback by being demonstrative, by being bully, by that balance of power, that part we can do without. But there still has to be there still has to be a way to suggest or to tell someone that they're not doing their job correctly. And that's the part that I think you're trying to illustrate and I'm trying to illustrate, is that, so now if I don't like it, I get to complain about it? No, you get to be treated professionally, respectfully, and with dignity. But you still have to take the hard cheese when the hard cheese comes, right?
Yeah. And I can appreciate that we're in an age where the employee nowadays is a little bit softer, is a little bit different. You hear it everywhere, right? For it to be false, I find hard to believe, because you hear from a lot of bosses and a lot of people just how difficult it is to find employees and workers that you can count on, because they're having a bad day and they can't work, or they're just too tired to come in today. So there's the yin and the yang, as you say. But I wonder, for a guy like Babcock, we talked about it on that other show today, and Rhett brought it up, that Mike Babcock has a Hall of Fame credential list, but he probably won't go to the Hall now because of this. Do you think?
No, I think he can. I think he can outlast it. He won't. He may not see it, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, again, predictions are not my thing. Joe Burrow 0-2.
Well, and it's and you know what? It's hard. Maybe in a month from now, we find out that it was something really unsavory that he was doing, and then it's like, well, yeah, he's not going to the Hall of Fame. Don't you think
that has been foreshadowed by our peers? Don't you think that the Darren Dragers and the Elliot Friedmans and the Chris Johnsons and the Frank Seravallis on Friday, by all basically saying, it's possible he could lose his job. I'm not saying he's going to, but I think they were all trying to signal in their own way that there's more to this. There's a there. And I think the same thing today, that, Elliot Friedman's couching it. When you listen to his podcast, and he goes, I have heard there was a young player that was not happy about an offsite meeting and na. I think that's a distinct possibility, Bo. And, again, I think the Western Hockey League's sitting on a minefield with Bill Peters and Lethbridge too.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I do too. It's easy. And I was going to say one other thing too. The one thing that I don't like, and it's whatever, but this really gets painted as a hockey thing, that it's hockey's toxic culture and all of this. And okay, there are many sordid tales in the game of hockey at various levels that are horrible and unforgivable and all of that. But it's not just hockey. It's a masculine thing across so many sports. You go to the NBA or the NFL or college football or whatever. It doesn't make it right, but it's just a success. Suggests this is a hockey thing because it's skates and pucks. I have a hard time with that. No. It's just we focus more on hockey, and all of our kids play it, and it's more of our life than any other sport. Whereas in the States, or wherever it is, if it was college football, then this would be their story, because all of their kids go to college or whatever the case is. So
100%. But it's the proxy
needs to figure it out, right? Hockey's always learning to do.
Yeah. Sure does.
But it's not alone.
But the sport's always the proxy in this country. It's always the proxy for the other sports. Look, I've said it before. I know for a fact that the sliding sports are sitting on some pretty ugly things involving coaching there too. Mm-hmm. They are. They just are. And they've said goodbye to coaches, and there are people no longer there because they saw the writing on the wall from hockey, and we better clean up our house. Right? We know what a mess. You're telling me that there isn't soccer issues? What a mess Soccer Canada is. And oh, by the way, in the United States, there's a professional high school basketball league, the Overtime Elite League, right? So you're telling me that that's all above board, that kids are making six-figure salaries and there's no issues there? Come on.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
And I don't mean to go off to kind of get off of it, because it's not to suggest that hockey deserves a break or anything like that, but it's just
it means we have to be
as
diligent.
A society, whatever you're doing, if you run a construction company, or you run you're making computer parts or whatever, what kind of people have you got around you? I want to surround myself with good people, nice people. I don't want to hang around with jerks and assholes and corrupt people. I just don't want to do that. I certainly don't want to do it at work either. So I would, if you're running a business, I just think it seems easy, right? It seems like it's common sense. Easy. Just don't hire bad people. Don't hire assholes.
I get that part, but trust me, as a consultant, most of my work should be in communication and planning and stuff like that. Most of my work is in HR. Most of my work is it's people. It always comes back to people. Right? And people need to be listened to. People need to be heard. People want to feel empowered. But then there's a segment of the population that also right now is running around going, well, we're not allowed to make jokes anymore. What's funny anymore? And all this stuff anymore. Things adapt, things change. Ultimately, it comes back to how you treat people, right? Treating people with dignity and treating people with respect is not a sign of weakness. It's not being soft. Treating people and not telling them when they're doing wrong or giving them feedback or making them better, that's wrong. That's wrong. Just, it's the old, well, we'll just loop arms and sing Kumbaya. Nobody's suggesting that, but there is a segment of the population that wants to make it that. Wow, you can't handle. Yeah, Rick Bell wrote the column about the soft players with the Flames, right? You wrote that column. Like they don't. Yeah. I get people feel that way, but I also you deal with people. I deal with people all the time. People want to be treated with respect, and there's nothing wrong with that. And you and I come from an era where yelling and bullying and abuse. I don't want to go back and tell the stories about high school all over again, but I told them on Friday, I take no pride in the fact that my grade 10 gym teacher screamed across the whole gym saying, hey, Kerr, you got bigger tits than my sister, because I was a roly-poly kid. Is that how you should be dealing with a 14-year-old? No. But in 1984, that's the way the coaches rolled, right? Yeah. That stuff's got to go. But you still need to be able to give feedback. You still need to be able to cut players and move players and sit players and all of that stuff. And that's the yin and the yang of this, too. And I'm not suggesting at the NHL level that's a problem. I'm suggesting that's a problem in minor sports, that you get the parents who go, wow, Mike Babcock, that's what's happening to my kid. You and I said this when you were coming on. Do you remember the emails and the letters we used to get at this time of year?
Oh, yeah.
How come you're not doing
evaluations and that? Yeah.
Oh, how come you're not doing a show on this? I've got a whole show for you. You've got to take down hockey because my son didn't make this team. Like who in their right mind thinks that anybody at an all sports radio station gives a tinker's damn about your kid not making a team? But they do, and they would send us the paperwork, wouldn't they? I'm not bullshitting about that.
Yeah, that's right? The other crazy thing too, is because you talk to parents, and none of us are the crazy parents. None of us are. And you do your Respect in Sport, that Sheldon Kennedy and his group design, and all the parents you go through. It's like, no, I would not do this. Here's what I would do. Yep. And you get in the stands and you talk about, so boy, parents, they're crazy, hey? And then inevitably you look down the stands like, well, that's crazy parent behavior right there. That's and I guess,
but it's the two most powerful words in the English language. Yeah, but. Oh, I'm not that parent. Yeah, but this happened and I couldn't stand up for it. Oh no, I sat in a car with Western Hockey League GMs and stuff, and we got an officiating problem. Oh yeah, that's why I'm but I never criticized. But that referee's out to get me. I've seen that movie, right?
Yeah. That whole stuff, all of that. Yeah, because my daughter is playing Ringette this year, and she's going to be the third of three, and I'm going to be done with sports. And I can tell you from my experience that it's really the only downside to the whole thing. I guess if you have, because we've never had an awful coach. We've never had any of our kids, like maybe there was disappointment because you didn't make the team you wanted to be on, but all of my kids ended up where they should have been. The evaluation process worked perfectly because they were never the best and never the worst. They were right where they should have been. And all the kids, all my kids, they had fun. They made new friends. Maybe they lost or won, but it was great. The only thing that takes away from it is when you have a parent or two or whatever, they can ruin the experience for everyone. And you would think that slowly but surely parents would be coming to the realization, the ones that are the crazy parents, it's like, okay, just take the 24-hour rule and use it. And maybe there's some people that just, it'll never, no matter how many quizzes or seminars or conversations that you have, it's just in them. And when it's your kid, you're so invested. In a weird way, it's hard. It comes from a nice place where you want the best for your kid. You're, as a parent, you love your kid, but it starts to really start to bleed into, when is this less about the kid and more about you? How important is this to you? What team you're on, or what level your kid is on, or all of this. So, I know, and I think it's going to be part of this conversation.
Okay, let me change the conversation. Is Biz Nasty this generation's Don Cherry? Is Biz Nasty now, not in the messages and not in the language and all that, but Don Cherry was the guy that was not the outsider. He was the insider, really, but he's the one that spoke truth to power, and he's the one that brought up topics that were uncomfortable, and he's the one, for a long time there, and created that following. Is business? I mean, you saw the tweet he put out last night, Boom, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't F with the players, your day will come. Is he this generation's Don Cherry?
Yeah, he's that and more, because I think there'll still be some people that think Biz is, he's just a jaded player, or he's a loudmouth. And certainly the way he goes about it with his language and the way he is and that, there's just some people who will never see him as anything more than just he's a kid with a Twitter account and a big mouth sort of thing. But I think he is one of the most powerful / influential hockey people that we have now. And we saw it here.
Yep.
Who would have ever guessed, if you'd have said 5 years ago, that Paul Bissonnette would potentially take down Mike Babcock? What?
Were you not the first guy that interviewed him about his Twitter account when he was in Arizona? Did you not?
It was a long time ago, for sure.
It was a long time ago, but you were the one, right? That everybody kind of knew about it, and then you asked him about it. And I think back to that and to this now, and it's like he's been building to this for 10 years.
Yeah, it was before he was on Chicklets, and yes, he was one of the, and there were a lot of them, but from the hockey world, he was one of the first, if only, guys to really have a big following. He got to that million follower plateau, and then you had other players who were coming in, and he would forward them and comment to them and stuff, and you could really see how a lot of young players thought he was funny and he was cool, and then it was cool to be associated with that, and that's where it's gotten to now. And if it weren't for that, he probably doesn't hear from these players, whoever they were. There's part of me, because I've seen it, he works his ass off. People think he's just, look at this, they got this podcast and whatever. He's on TNT, and he's works
Pat
hard.
McAfee in hockey.
He is the Pat McAfee of the hockey world, for sure. I worry a little bit that he may go too far somewhere along the line.
So did Don Cherry.
Right, to that end. And I don't think he's good for the game or bad for the game, but he is a powerful presence for sure, and he's earned it. He played in the league a little bit. And
you're neutral on him? You think he's good or bad?
Pardon me?
You're neutral on him? Like, I think he's really good for the game.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
I just, now where does it go? Because this is kind of a
this is going to take it to another level
thing, right?
Yeah.
This is where a podcast kind of took. No one else was going to tell this story, I don't think. Not the way they told it. They may have said something to the effect that, Mike Babcock, well, who knows? Maybe if Elliott or if somebody does it. But the way they came out and, have you heard what Babcock's doing? I can't believe he's at it again. This guy's this, and bam. What's curious about it is, I mean, it emboldens, because you could see Witt and Biz and those guys. It's kind of like a told you so kind of a thing. What does it do now? Are other people going to start feeding him? Hey, you know
that's what
coach is doing, or you know what my teammate is doing? That sort of stuff. Where is his filter for throwing stuff out there that could be damaging to other people?
Is Alan Walsh going to stop sending tweets and now call Biz nasty and go, Jonathan Huberdeau's not getting treated right? Or whatever, or whoever. I'm sorry, that's the one that jumps out at me. But we saw it with other, Marc-Andre Fleury and things like that. I'm making light of the emails and the letters we used to get at the radio station at this time of year. I suspect he's getting those. I suspect he's getting those from all over the world now. And I suspect, and who's going to your point, who's going to filter it, and how does he know? And let me bring one other guy into this. Do we not owe, not you and I, but everybody, Mike Commodore a bit of an apology here? Because wasn't Mike Commodore, that's Mike, he just doesn't like, it was real easy to kind of shove Mike to the side and say, yeah, he just doesn't like Babcock. Oh, what did he say about Babcock today? Oh, and kind of treat it as a joke.
He's made no bones about it. And sometimes I wondered if it was just best for him, because it was here's a guy that feels he was hard done by or done wrong by this guy. And every time something happens, he comes out on his Twitter and it's just kind of the same story over and over again. And he did look like a guy who was butthurt over getting cut or whatever what it is. Whether you want to call it an apology, or even if it's just kind of a quiet acknowledgement that this was more than just a guy who got sent to the minors. I think there is for sure. I think that there is a bit of an acknowledgement for sure that maybe there was more to this Babcock guy than just Mike Commodore, who had a rift with him or had a bad relationship with a former coach.
Yeah, I know that Mike has been back. He's got a podcast and he's taken to social media and everything. It was just more of the, sometimes when Babcock was in Toronto, it's like, oh, there's Commie again. He's going off and all of that. But,
Well, when I was at 960 still, we were doing the mornings. Yeah. And it was the year that Red had taken a hiatus, as it turns out. But he was done, and we were kind of circulating through other people who maybe would come in as a co-host on a full-time basis. And Mike was in for a number of weeks at a time. And he was on the week when the Babcock stuff happened in Toronto. So my phone is exploded. When's Commie coming on? Is Commie on? Can't wait to hear Commie and all of this. And if I were him, I would probably have just downplayed it. It's like, listen, guy's lost his job. I would probably have gone the other way, but not Mike. He
leaned in.
He came out and he leaned in for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's an unfortunate story. And like I say, just kind of put a bow on it and bring it back around. There has to be more to this, which makes you wonder, what was Columbus thinking? Because they brought this on themselves.
I don't understand how Kekalainen, and again, I said it before, I love John Davidson, I really do, but I don't understand how they walk away from this. And yet they have, right? Ownership has said no more changes, and they said, geez, I apologize to the team today. Boy, it was on us. Bad mistake. It just sports. Feels more than that. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Look what's happened. Yeah. Look what's happened in Chicago, where they went through all of that stuff. Yep. With Kyle Beach and all of that, right? Like they got drugged through the mud. And right now, they got the number 1 pick in the draft, and season ticket sales are up, and people can't wait for Blackhawk hockey.
And both Quenneville and Bowman were allowed to come back and talk as a gesture, perhaps, of getting back into the league.
Yeah.
Right?
Monday Night Football tonight. Deshaun Watson's on the field. Everybody's excited for the Browns. They got a big win a week ago. Their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, was banished from the league and 100%. All of this sort of thing. Well, how could the Browns, how could you do this? This is our team. This is our quarterback tonight. Go Browns.
Yep.
Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill. It's full. And same in the NBA. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make it right, but it's not a hockey thing. You look around and sports forgets real quickly because it's a passion for so many people. And maybe that's right, and maybe that's wrong, but it's the way it is.
Jack, did we get a final from the Young Stars tournament? I think I'd like to leave Boomer with that.
4-2 Flames.
4-2 Flames. Boom. So Calgary 2-1 in Penticton, off to a really good start. This should really launch them into a playoff contention, I would think.
Yeah. So the parade starts. Would they do the start at the Stampede grounds and then work out? Or
I believe so, and work their way. Yeah, I think you have to go into downtown and back.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, good stuff.
How are you? Like June? You and I were in Camrose, the first kind of iteration of rookie stuff, right? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And then we were in Penticton. Yeah. And it just all seems so exciting. And now it's just like, can you guys get off my lawn? I don't care. Like it just I feel like I'm raining. All these guys are so excited about it. And I'm like, who cares?
I know. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because we were talking about, are we going to go to Penticton? Should we go? It's like, well, they're going to come back, right? Like they're going for 3 or 4 days. We'll be here when they get back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it'll be on the internet. And then when they get back, we'll be here for that. I don't know. It's like anything as you get older, but it felt like, and it's just Matthew Coronato's a first round pick. I just think back then, because I was looking at highlights the other day, and they had Matthew Tkachuk, and they were exciting prospects. And maybe Coronado will be a 30, 40 goal guy, and we'll talk about. Remember, we were kind of poo-pooing on the Young Stars tournament, and Coronado would have been there. But I think it's good. I think it's good for fans. When is it ever a bad thing to have something for your fans to get excited about? I don't know what you learn. Very seldom did you come out of that tournament, I think, across the board and be like, well, this guy, they got a real guy, and we wouldn't have known it were it not for the Young Stars tournament. Let the kids, I think it's a good bonding. They have their development camp. Let the kids get to know each other. Let them get to know the coaches and how the team works. Let them go on a road trip this tournament. It's great. I don't know if the teams actually use it for any kind of an evaluation tool. There's 3 other teams there. I'm not sure what kind of a litmus test that is. Get them into camp, get them with the main group. I'll be curious to see what they do with camp this year, because remember last year, Daryl had 2 groups. He had the not making the team and the making the team.
Yes, that's right.
So it was a little little tough to make the team for that battle for a spot on the roster when you were on the you're not making the team.
Not making the team. Yeah.
So
no, you're right. I forgot. I could. Yeah.
I think this year, I think the Pelche's got a job to lose. I think Coronado's got a spot there. I don't know what they're going to do with the goalies, because Wolf's nothing left for him to do at the AHL level or at any other level. Where's he going to go? You got to get him into the NHL. They got 3 goalies. So there's certainly some curiosity, as much excitement as there was a year ago, because the whole narrative was they might be better this year than they were last year. And the answer was a resounding no, they're not.
No, they're not.
What kind of a redemption story do a number of these players have? You got so many guys in career years, and you love being good in your career year.
Contract years.
The young guys, contract years, their deals are coming up. Are any of these guys staying? Do you give Lindholm $9 million? I don't think. Is Hanifin really entertaining staying? What are you doing? Are you getting? So I'm as intrigued for this year for completely different reasons. I'm not down. I think a lot of people are like, oh, going to be a long year.
I think it feels like that, yeah.
Right? I feel like that's kind of, and maybe that's how you feel after last year. I don't know that it's going to be that kind of year. I think some guys went through some stuff. We've heard about Elias Lindholm and having a baby and premature, and you know what it's like. You have a kid and your world's upside down. Is Markstrom going to be better? What's the Kadri situation? We have a new coach. You have a new GM. There's so much that's changed. How is it all going to play out? Fascinating is a little bit more. I'm very intrigued and curious on a human level to see who's better and who's not, because the ice is the same and the teams are the same and the team itself is going to mostly be the same. Who is going to be better or worse because of the situations in their personal lives or the relationships within the locker room and the coaches and all that sort of thing. Human interest story.
Absolutely. It is. It's
and
kind
I'll be
of
in
like
I'll be in my kitchen.
I was going to say, you'll be in your kitchen cooking up analysis.
Yeah, I'll be right here. Yeah.
See, I think you should do what are we calling it? Afterburner? What's the show?
Yeah.
Afterburner, yeah. Yeah, okay. I think you should do Afterburner, and I think you should a big win should be like a cake, and then like a bad loss should be like liver. And that should be your measuring stick. So, we wait to see what you pull out of the oven to find out how you feel about that particular game. Yeah,
it's a prime rib on the menu tonight.
You must have liked it. They must have been fantastic. Oh, shoo, right? What do you mean tonight, you made broccoli?
Yeah. And tonight, some blood sausage.
With cream corn.
Liver and onions would be a good one for sure.
Oh, yeah. You are to Sports Talk Radio what cellular phones are to communication.
Yeah, I get that
I don't know how we can look at it any differently.
I don't either. Yeah, I'm cutting edge. I'm not an internet pioneer, but,
but very few of us can be, right?
That's right.
Is the little show still on in the mornings?
Yeah, we're doing it.
And by little show, I mean absolute runaway juggernaut, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, we've got it. one guy right this week, one guy's in his kitchen, one guy's in Buffalo, and one guy's in Europe. So we're really leaning into it. We're really dedicated to it. But no, we're back. We're going 5 days a week again. It's in some ways, September is not a lot dissimilar from August, where there's not a lot going on. And certainly with this team, there has not been a lot.
Is it okay that we say that? Like, is it okay? Because I always felt like, I always felt when we were at the radio station, it's like, hey, they're back skating. You should go talk to them. Why? Yeah. Wow, we can get stuff. We put it on the radio. And how's that going to be different than we talk to them at the? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not bringing back my
that was more.
I'm not bringing back my insiders till October.
Yeah. That was the radio world we lived in because ratings started. But you couldn't talk about it. But the ratings,
you
which
can't
are
talk
ridiculous,
about ratings.
Ridiculous, by the way. So they send out 100 letters or 50 letters in the city of Calgary, and 5 of them might land in the hands of males of the age group that we chase, and one of them might listen to sports radio. So it's like, you guys had a terrible book. Okay, so I get that. It's competition, but I think one of the comments you made, and we need to be conscious of it, is we aren't normal fans. Because we aren't maybe interested doesn't mean no one's interested. There's a lot of people.
That's right.
Who would be streaming and watching hey, the New Jersey numbers are out. That's a big deal. Who's playing with who? What are you hearing? How does Hannafin look? Uyghur got engaged. All this sort of stuff. It really does matter to a lot of the fans. And I know for us, we're very conscious. Just because it's like, who cares? Like, listen, a lot of people care. A lot of people care.
But we're doing it the right way, because we're not saying that everybody's got to do the same thing. We got to cover. That's why we keep Ryan Pike employed. Right? Yeah.
And
if it wasn't for Ryan, he loves it, and he's good at it. And he's good at it. And stuff like that. But as opposed to the old world where, I better come in and do the exact same thing you're doing, because that's what we better do. It's a little bit refreshing to go, no, I can go do it differently because you guys have already done that.
Maybe.
Right?
I think it was Friday's show. It was the day after Friday or Thursday after the golf tournament, when Lindholm and Hannafin and Backlund and all, because all the media show up there and they ask the questions. It's like, is there a chance? So you're happy in Calgary. Is there a chance you're staying? And you know what the answer is. Like, I would entertain anything. I want to hope I have a good year. Last year was very disappointing. You just know how that goes. 100%. And I thought I should maybe go and get these clips and play them, because and then you watch them and they're so on the nose what I just said. Of course I was thinking, we're let my agent handle it and we'll take it one day at a time.
Yep.
No, I can't do that to the people that are watching or listening, because it's paining me to watch it, let alone. So I don't know. It's you want to do right by the fans, because that's what this whole thing is about. But I'm in my kitchen. That's not what this is about.
I was going to say,
I'm constantly looking. How can we do this a little bit differently? How can we do it a little bit differently? How can we have a little bit more fun with it, but still do it justice that people aren't watching thinking these guys are just a bunch of idiots? And it's, I don't know what they're doing. It's weird, but I do believe they know what they're talking about. They do have connections to the team, and they do have some. I think their opinions are right. That's the thing. It is with Rhett, is you may not always agree with what he's saying, but the guy played, and there will be a large group of fans who will. Yeah, that's how he feels. So, always looking for a new way to do it, buddy.
Okay. I never did get a chance. How did you and the young one enjoy Winnipeg and Monday Night Raw?
Oh, dude, he was. My kid is somehow a huge wrestling fan in the last year and a half. Yeah. I don't know how it exactly started, but he's a huge fan. We went to SmackDown when it came to town, and it's just the greatest night he's ever had. And hilariously, he and I are on screen the whole night.
I know.
We're in the intro. We're in the when these wrestlers are coming down. It was like the
clips even today.
I know. We were on one the other day. It was the promo that they built for The Miz and LA Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, I try to remember because he even whatever the insurance company is. Hey, Dad, we're in the Geico, Future Shot promo, whatever the hell it is, right? But and I know what it's like because the camera guy and the producer in the truck would be like, well, whenever we go to these two dummies in the stands, they're like cheering and losing their minds. So we can go to them whenever we need a real active crowd shot. But he liked the difference was, and you would probably know this, it didn't really dawn on me. SmackDown's 2 hours, Raw 3 hours.
Yep.
It's a marathon. Like, it's exhausting. It's draining. But it's quite a show. It was great for him. It was one of those things that I like wrestling. It's like, oh, we saw you cheering. It's, you having fun with your kid.
Yeah, but that's a father-son thing, right?
He's probably not going to be jumping up and down on his into it unless his dad is, kind of a thing. And I don't mind, whatever. But no, it was very cool. It was very much a father-son thing. And when's the last time you've been to Winnipeg?
Probably 10 years ago. Has it changed?
Not a lick. Nope.
Not a lick, eh?
It's a rough town, dude.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like downtown, boarded up windows, and
yep.
I don't know how Kevin Cheveldayoff or whoever's running that team. Good luck, man. If you land in Winnipeg as a free agent, it's like, hey, let's go check out the rink. You better take a circuitous route to that downtown rink, because if you go from airport to the hockey rink, I don't need to go inside. Just take me back to the airport if you would. But
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
But you had fun. That's all.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was very cool. They do a great job, and I like to think maybe that's my calling. I could do like a Michael Cole.
I think you could.
Wrestling announcer.
I have all the faith in the world in you. Dungeon Wrestling's got a show coming up in October. Yes, of course you can.
I had a great time at that last wrestling show.
I know. Awesome. I know. I'm looking forward to it.
So fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let you go. I heard the timer go off, so you've got stuff to make.
Yeah, I got the chili going here. I haven't tasted it just yet. We got to probably do some seasoning. Maybe put in a little more cumin. Maybe a little bit of white pepper.
All right. You know what?
You had a question. Go ahead.
What is cumin?
When you smell or taste cumin, it's chili.
Okay.
As soon as you see, it'll be like, oh, that's tacos, chili. It's a spice along that, along that line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. You are the best. I appreciate you doing this.
I am, and you're welcome.
Yep. All right, buddy.
See you, buddy.
There you go. The one and only Chef Boomer, live from his kitchen, brought to you by Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. 76 years in Calgary. 4 locations in Calgary. 2 are open right now. McLeod Trail by Chinook Center, Bow Ridge Northwest. Weather looks good for the next couple weeks, but that's not going to hold for long. So get your skis, snowboard serviced, ready for the season. Check out their snow skating, all at Ski Cellar Snowboard, skicellarsnowboard.com. Jack, I think we might have a question or two today. Am I missing something, or are the comments kind of out of control today?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of out of control.
All right. A little bit out of, but a little went sideways. Did they?
There's a good amount of questions here.
Is there a good amount of questions? All right. Let's see what people have to say. What are they thinking about? What are they talking about?
So here's one I found interesting. If the Spit and Chicklets platform didn't exist, would Babcock still be a coach in the NHL today?
Yes.
They just wouldn't have.
It was not brought to the attention of, quote unquote, the traditional insiders. They reported on it afterwards. So eventually things come out, I suppose, but it went directly through him. He brought it. He doubled down on it. He didn't back away from it. And, I think Aaron Portzline's reporting was, in The Athletic, was that there was more comfort in going to a former player than there was going to the management and organization. So I part of me also believes is that may have seen this movie in the past and we just moved on, right? Because day 2 of it, NHL said nothing to see here. But Biz Nasty didn't move off of it. So it still carried the day. So yeah, again, I think it's becoming quickly one of the more powerful platforms in all of hockey. If not the most powerful.
I agree for sure. Do you know when the Flames training camp starts? Is it not
Thursday?
That's this week.
Yep.
Okay.
Thursday.
And Deep was asking that. More questions. How can you make hockey a more affordable sport for everyone?
Great question. I wish I had a magic bullet. I'll give you I'll give it to you. And you're not going to agree with it. And there's going to be some people that push back on it. We have to be what we're talking about today. As we begin to lose volunteers, as we begin to lose coaches and managers and people like that, the solution always is, and we've seen it in other leagues, is you start to hire them. And then they become, for-profit groups. Look at the GTHL and how much those teams are worth. So one, you have to maintain the volunteer component. Two, you ban tournaments outside of the city. But Rob, yes, I get it, but they're also a cost. And I can tell you a story about, the house league option that Hockey Calgary has made, and it's very, very successful and very, very popular, which is one practice, one game a week. They're the set times. And right away they said, look, no tournaments, no fundraising. This is what it is. 3 weeks into their first season, we want to go to a tournament. No, you guys didn't read the fine print. The other part of this is it's going to take a concerted effort from manufacturers, stores, the retailers, and players to make economical options. We need to bring back wooden sticks. We need to bring back entry-level skates. We need to bring back, and it's not unlike an issue that we have in basketball, that we have a real challenge of getting young players into basketball sometimes because they feel like they have to have the top end sneakers. No, you need the Walmart sneaker. That's what your parents can afford. That's what'll get you into the game. But because the sneaker culture is such, we need the top end players. We need LeBron, and we need, that's why Stephon Marbury was so important, because Marbury's Starbury shoes weren't they like a ridiculously cheap entry level shoe? So we need to find ways to say to kids, it's okay. But I'm also old enough, and you're probably the same thing. Kids can be cruel sometimes. Oh, your parents are poor. You can't have the top end Bauer skate and things like that. We have to put controls into that. And as soon as you put controls, you're controlling my young player. The city is not going to reduce rates on ice. That's just not the reality of it. They already play, Hockey Calgary already gets a reduced rate. But to bring the cost down, it's going to be the accoutrements. I remember some guy trying to get into an argument with me on social media a couple years ago because his Atom team, whatever that is, U9, was doing beep testing. So they brought out all the technology to do the same physical testing that the NHL players would go through. That's asinine. That's stupid. That's absolutely stupid. But he tried to argue with me. Oh, that's what their heroes do, so that's what they wanted. No, that's not what. Third jerseys and all of these sort of things. It's these things that drive up the costs. And Hockey Calgary has tried to put some pieces in place, but they need help. And the sport, this is where Hockey Canada and Hockey Alberta and the Flames and everybody can have a real impact, is making affordable choices, is making more affordable leagues. But we just went through this whole conversation, and I can only imagine the amount of comments that we got, that there was no shortage of people that probably weren't that thrilled when we started calling out parents about their evaluation behaviors and things like that. But this sport is run for the elite player. It's not run for the family. It's not run for life, for being active all your life. It's always, the decisions are always made about getting the best players and getting them into the Western League and getting them to Hockey Canada and getting them. This should be about the mantra of Hockey Calgary, Hockey Alberta, and Hockey Canada should be, it's not our job to get a single player into the PWHL or the NHL. Our job is to make thousands and thousands of beer league players. Sport for life. So that's the only way I can see it.
A lot of people are excited about Adam Klapka. Had a very good tournament for the Flames. Do you have anything you can say about him?
Yep,
from his game?
Sure do. Adam Klapka marched in the Pride Parade with CSEC, and I was there with the alumni, and I got a firsthand vision of this guy dealing with the public and dealing with kids and being in the community, and he's of high character. He's of high character. To watch his skill set today, I see there were some highlights, not necessarily that led to goals. I know he was in on some points. He apparently has pretty good hands, I would say, for a big guy. I like to think that there's a there. But I always start with character, and I like this kid's character.
Last one on the Babcock thing. If it was any other coach besides Mike Babcock, would he have been fired?
Yes. He would have been, but he would have been then put into the pool of recycling. He would have then gone, let's pick a coach. Because the minute you name a name, then you're going, well, but if this was a second-year coach that had come up through the American Hockey League a couple of years ago and he got caught doing this, he would have been walked out of it. He would have been fired probably immediately by the team. But he would have gone into the pool, and he goes into the pool and he does his comeuppance, and he, works on whatever shortcomings he has. And then he gets back in as an assistant, and then he gets another opportunity. That's how hockey's always worked. So yes, I do believe that. And it's kind of what Boomer and I were talking about. And that's where I think if you read the insiders, if you read not the Bisonettes, I'm talking about the Friedmans and the Draggers and the Frank Seravallis of the world. I think there is a belief there that there's more to this that has not quite hit the surface, and the fact that the NHLPA stayed on it like bulldogs, like they did, and we got to this place. I think there's a there. So my belief is, yes, if it was somebody else and this happened the way we think it happened, yeah, but they would now, Babcock's done. Babcock's not coming back. But a younger coach or, we've seen those guys get put back into the recycle machine.
Can you think of any coaches in professional sports that have kind of withstand the test of time between the old generation of coaching and players to now? One that comes to mind for me is Greg Popovich of the Spurs.
Yeah. But remember, when Popovich came in, he was cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the sport caught up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with Popovich is he's not necessarily the most cuddly, warm guy to the media. Therefore, sometimes he gets painted with another brush that says, oh, he's this or he's that. Knowing people that have worked for him and knowing players that have played for him, not knowing, but talking to players, knowing people that have worked for him, but talking to players, like he is that guy. I was to that question about hockey. I think there are some real genuine good coaches that have boy, if that's the case, Rob, how come they're not popping off the end of your tongue? Because Keenan's not that. Hartley wasn't that. I think Gulletson tried to be both sides of the fence. I think Dave Cameron is a guy that, in many cases, it's always the role too, though, or it can be the role. Like, I think guys love Jimmy Playfair as an assistant coach, and then Jimmy as a head coach, it went south. That's a great question. It's not, it's not Belichick or anything like that. Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll was that kind of, at least that's the media perspective of it. It's a difficult question because I as I'm talking about this, well, that's his portrayal. I don't know. I've never sat down and talked to him. I've talked to a hell of a lot more hockey coaches. And the hockey coaches that I like and the hockey coaches that I tend to migrate to don't necessarily get those long-term jobs. I will not sit here. I have nothing good to say about Mike Keenan. Nothing. He won. But I have nothing good to say about him. But on the other flip side, what about Daryl Sutter? You asked, was that not a question on Friday? What do you think? I love Daryl. Didn't play for him, but as a human being, I loved him. His interactions, he was hard. And I don't think it works anymore. But as a human being, I like him. That one I might, you know what, Jackie? I might come back on that one on Friday. And I just feel like it's a great question. Mm-hmm. Whoever asked, it's a great question. Great question. What else you got?
Last question here.
That's it. I mean, my God, I've never seen this many things.
There's a lot of rants, not a ton of questions.
Rants?
Yes.
Well, okay. Okay. Let's deal with the questions first, and I want to just ask about the rants.
Okay. Last one here. Besides the Flames, which team are you most excited to see this year? Any sort of breakout teams or?
Buffalo. I think Buffalo is. I've got no connection. I mean, Rhett's there, I guess. I've got no connection to Buffalo. I think Ottawa. Like Ottawa's done this job of sewing up its big players. I really like Brady, Tkachuk. I'm kind of curious about Ottawa. Excited, but I do want to see what Carolina does. Like, Carolina is such an interesting team to me. Are they this generation San Jose Sharks, where they're just always really good but never good enough? Or, I guess the Nashville Predators were that for a bit. There's a term for that. I can't remember what Boomer has a term for that. But to me, it's probably Buffalo. Yeah. I like a lot of the pieces they have in Buffalo. Jersey, it should be Jersey. I should be excited about Jersey. I'm just not. Do you not feel that way? Like, man, I should be excited about Jersey, but I'm just not.
Yeah, kind of similar.
Right? Like, will they be better? I'm sure they will, but don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. All right.
What about Columbus now, though? Like,
what about Columbus?
Yeah, like, I feel like they're kind of in that spot where, like, they bring in Babcock to make a push for the playoffs almost, but.
Well, to speed up the rebuild. Fantilli apparently had a good Traverse City, for what that's worth. I like Johnny Gaudreau. I mean, I make no bones about it. I almost want Columbus to be good so that my friend Aaron Portsline has a good team to cover. I put this out yesterday. He just, when anything ever goes bad in frickin' Columbus, he printed or posted his media stops that he's doing. He's like 10 today. Something bad happened. Get me Aaron Portsline. We'll get Portsline on here. And when you do that, because I've done it too in the past, something happens in Calgary. Just before Dion got traded, I went on. They had some garbage morning show in Toronto on 590 with some news guy that they tried to make into a sports guy, and it was the worst freaking hit I had ever done. And why is this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and then the expectation is you're carrying water for the team. Well, I'm not carrying water for the team, and Portsline doesn't carry water for the team. So, I want them to be good for Portsy. I don't know. I just don't know how deep this whole thing goes, right? How fractured that whole thing goes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if those are all the questions, give me some sense of the rants then today. What was everybody ranting on? Were they half and half? Or are they all on one side? Or it makes my heart feel good if they're mad and happy and all over the place. If they're all on one side, then I think you made a mistake.
Yeah, I think most people are in the side of the NHL did the right thing that with Babcock here.
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
Then give me one. In fairness, give me one. Give me one. I mean, they were kind enough to leave their thoughts. It's not like everybody has to agree around here, but give me one. I'm hoping that they didn't have to get personal about it. I'm hoping they could at least make a legitimate, conversation about it. That's my hope.
I'm scrolling through here.
Yeah. No, I know. There's a bunch, which is great. I'm glad people took the opportunity to write or write something down. Half the time it makes you feel better just doing that. Right. So, I'm looking forward to Friday. I'm looking forward to, getting into games next week and stuff like that. I'll never back down from this stuff. This is the stuff that I do enjoy weighing in on. It's like Boomer said, though, you got to be, you got to give people what they want. So I don't want to do it all the time because I think it gets a little too heavy sometimes. And I think it gets a little too self-serving and all those sort of things. I know that, but I don't back away from it. You got one?
There really isn't a ton that is like fighting against you here. Like,
no, it's not about fighting against me. But it's kind of that give me the one that says Babcock shouldn't be fired.
There is none of that. There's no.
It's just different variations on
variations of the story, and like, I think some people think no one's coming out and saying that he shouldn't have been fired.
But is there that angst, Jack, that this is a societal thing or a woke thing or they're soft or things like that? Because that's the thing that I noticed the most.
Yeah.
Right. And I've tried to acknowledge that. You can call me, I guess you can accuse me of lecturing. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to recognize and acknowledge that this is for some people, this is a very difficult conversation. I had some very difficult conversations this morning. I talked to some people who said, yeah, but yes, he should go. But now what happens? Right. And the soft thing, I mentioned, Rick Bell's article that he wrote in the Sun after Daryl Sutter got gone. People are soft. It then becomes a left-right thing. And then it becomes a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative thing. And all of that stuff's, crap. Like this is a human dignity thing, right? Everybody wants to be treated fairly. That's all. But I can understand people who, I get it. I fully understand it. And that's why, for somebody to say it's not, somebody could tweet us and say, well, why are you talking about that? Nobody cares. Take a look at our comments today.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's one.
Okay.
So, Babcock's been labeled as a bad guy. So this guy's asking, define bad people. Who decides that he's a bad person?
I think in this case, it's the media has almost been the judge and the jury, and I guess the NHLPA. He's a bad guy because he's been accused of this before, and is Mike Babcock a bad guy? I don't think so. I'll say this about Mike Babcock. He's different. He's not like I've dealt with him in interviews, and he's not, he's just a different cat, and that's okay. His approach is not an approach that you can have anymore. Therefore, yes, he becomes a bad guy. The fact that he takes no accountability makes him a bad guy. Does Mike Babcock push nuns out in front of traffic? I doubt it. Does he kick puppies downstairs? Probably not. Has he ever stolen from people? No, I don't think so. But in the lexicon and the conversation of sport, in what we're talking about, in this storyline, he is the villain. Therefore, he is bad. I don't know Mike Babcock, the person. I've interviewed him. He's strange. He's different, and not necessarily in a bad way. I interviewed him before the 2010 Olympics, and it was in the Hot Stove Lounge, and he came in and he was all over the place and he was yelling and he was this and that. The light went on. We did the interview. He calmed down. He answered all the questions. It was a fantastic interview. And then ended, and we stopped recording, and he was all over the place again. Seen him in the Detroit Red Wings dressing room a couple of times. Just a different cat. Not what you would call a regular guy, but that's an observation. He's not and from that standpoint, he's not a bad guy. But to this person, I shouldn't say gentleman, I don't know who sent the text. To this point, he is a bad guy by virtue of his role in this story. So take that with a grain of salt. Does that make sense, Jack?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
That'll do it.
All right, buddy. You don't want that job anymore, do you? Listen, I love the fact that we got responses. That's what we want to do. And again, we said this on Friday. You can go back and listen to the first show. And I encourage you, if you're just joining this show in the last couple of weeks, month, today, whatever, go back and listen to the first show, because I did the whole manifesto there. This is not about people listening to this show and going, Rob's right. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of that. This is the show I want people to go, I didn't think about that. Let me test that against my thought process. The last thing on earth I ever want to hear is, oh, I believe everything you say and repeat it. What I want to hear is, you make me think. I don't agree with you, but you make me think. Brilliant. That's all I want. And Boomer and Rhett and Ryan do an outstanding job of getting into day-to-day. We poke fun at them, but Pike and the staff over at the Flames Nation, they've got that fan stuff. This is more about me doing a show for a much smaller audience that wants to go a little bit off into this path. That's what this is. And for that, I appreciate everybody bearing with us. Final mile, couple things. Kudos to the Boston Red Sox. I love this. This Friday night at Kenway. It's Barbie night. I love it. I don't think this would have happened 10 years ago. And I made a tweet today, and I stand by it. I think there's a whole bunch of old white guys going, oh, I don't get it. Why would you do that? Oh, you can't do that. Well, no, this is fantastic. If sports is truly for everybody, this is the big. Have you seen Barbie?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I need to go.
You do?
Yeah.
I don't need to go, but I'm very aware of how big it is culturally.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And to me, the Red Sox benefit from this, don't they?
Yeah, I can't see how this isn't a win for everyone.
This is a win. We did this on Friday. I'll do it again today. I'm really proud of Kevin Kabelka, Jamie Henry, and the staff over at Hockey Calgary. It's our second annual Hockey Inspires Coaching Day, trauma-informed coaching. Look at that list. Marco Carducci is going to be there from the Cavalry. Jody Carrington, who's an outstanding speaker. We are addressing the things that I have been talking about here. Like, we want to help coaches. We want to give coaches the tools that they can better help their players. And yes, winning is one thing, but they are forging young women and men that are going to be our leaders down the road. So very excited and very proud of my association with Hockey Calgary and the fact that we are leaders when it comes to getting out in front of some of these topics. And finally, just want to make mention, it was 43 years ago yesterday, or 43 years, for the past 43 years, the Terry Fox run. Terry Fox is, to me, full stop, the greatest Canadian athlete of all time. All due respect to Wayne Gretzky, Steve Nash, and others. Terry Fox defined a generation, did something that I don't think could ever be duplicated. He started his Marathon of Hope on April 12th, 1980 in Newfoundland, and stopped on September 1st, 1980, after running 5,373 kilometers because cancer had returned into his chest. He had already lost a leg to cancer. Sometimes I feel like I'm saying this and everybody knows, but it's 43 years ago. And there's Terry Fox schools and there's Terry Fox roads and there's lots of Terry Fox, but I still remember the grainy pictures. I still remember the van. I still remember him running the equivalent of a marathon every day. And at the time, as an impressionable 10-year-old, why was he doing this? He wanted to beat cancer, and he was heroic. He was quiet, humble. He was what I think everybody felt a Canadian should be and is. Here we are 43 years later. We still have not solved cancer. I understand we made some headways. I think we better there, but he also set off a whole Rick Hansen and Steve Fogno and Sheldon Kennedy. There's lots of people that would go on to be inspired by him and do, cross country, treks and things like that to draw attention to causes. But Terry Fox remains, to me, just the preeminent Canadian athlete. I'm extremely proud that I lived in his era. I'm extremely proud that I saw the Marathon of Hope on my television. And I hope one day that we put his face on money. And I know that sounds trite, but I really believe it. He's had that kind of impact. I'm a little tired of seeing politicians all the time. I think great Canadians deserve that honor, and I think Terry Fox is there. So for those yesterday who participated in Calgary and continue to participate in runs at schools and things like that, thank you for keeping his name alive. He will always be the greatest Canadian athlete. We're back on Friday, and right into Flames camp. Looking forward to that. Barn burner every day. Don't forget Flames Nation, Ryan Pike and the gang have got you covered. Thanks to Jack, our outstanding producer. Loved the show today. Thank you for joining us, and we're back in a couple of days.
When there's two sides to every coin, then there's a conversation you can join.